Welcome back. You're listening to My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we are talking about the different parenting styles, controlling versus coaching. And we have Erin Taylor as our special guest today, calling all the way from New Jersey.
Yeah, she's a certified parent coach. She's a co-founder of an organization called Connected Communities. And she's also the author of a book called Connection and Kindness. And Erin, on the break, you were telling me that you have this great story about the controlling style parent versus the coaching style parent. Please share that with us.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. This is a story about my own 14-year-old son, and it just occurred this week. And I think it highlights some really good aspects of what we're talking about. He plays on a rec baseball team, and he also played for the high school volleyball team this spring. And so playing on the high school team caused him to have to miss a couple of the baseball games because the school bus wasn't back from the away game in time and things like that. So tonight, actually, his team has their next game, and it's the first game of a tournament-style weekend. And so when I told him about it 2 days ago, just to kind of say, hey, I just got the email, your next game is Friday night, he said, Mom, this is always happening. I was making plans with my friends. This game is interfering. Can't I just skip it? And I could feel my fear rising up and my resistance, and I could feel my muscles tensing up. And but I've had so many years to practice this, practice. And so I was successfully able to not allow it to just disintegrate into an argument between me and him, or me saying, I don't care what you say, you're going, that's that, end of story. I just said, I kind of felt the feelings that I was feeling inside, clenching and tension and stuff. And I said, oh, that's a bummer that you were making plans. You didn't realize that there was a game. And he said, I know, can I skip it? And I said, do you really think you should? And he said, but I wanted to hang out with my friends. We were making plans. This is the third time this has happened. One time I couldn't go because of volleyball. One time I couldn't go because of baseball. I'm sick of it. And I simply said, well, I understand what you want to do, but I also think that you know what you should do. And he was just, and he was annoyed and upset. And I didn't push him or force him to bring this conversation to a conclusion. That was 2 days ago. And that evening and the whole next day, I thought about this situation. And I thought, should I let him off the hook? It's a recreational baseball team, so they kind of understand that sometimes you're going to, have conflicts and you won't be there. But it's not really right to skip a game for your team because you want to hang out with your friends. That's not right either. So I felt like I was in a real dilemma. What should I do? And which side of the coin am I going to fall down on as his parent? And when we met up again, and I felt a lot of tension thinking about this while he was in school the next day. When we saw each other again last night, I said to him, he has another friend who plays on the team who also was planning to do this, to hang out with this group of friends tonight. And I said to him, did you ever find out if this other boy is going to the game or not? And he said no, and I said, well, how about if you text him and ask him? So 2 hours later or so, I said, did you ever hear from him? Did you ever find out if he's going? And he said, no, I didn't even ask him. It's fine, I'll just go. And I thought, oh my gosh. So even when I feel like I'm making good choices as a parent, I still learn so much from it. And what I realized when I thought about it afterwards was when I said he had a game and he resisted and he wanted to skip out on it, I felt discomfort. I thought, oh my gosh, if I let him not go to the game, what will his coach think of me? And then I already told him he can go to the game. How in the heck, what am I going to say to get him out of the game now that sounds that doesn't sound ridiculous. But should I even do that? I just went through all of those emotions and thoughts and struggles. And I wanted to resolve the situation immediately. I wanted to have a decision made so I could close that door and move on, close that chapter and move on. But I allowed it to kind of dangle out there unresolved. And then he resolved it himself. And what I realized afterwards was, if I had allowed my fear and discomfort to propel me to force a situation, he and I would have ended in an argument. I guarantee that he and I would have ended in an argument, and it would have ended with me putting my foot down and saying, that's it, you're going, I don't care what you say. And then he would have been angry with me, I would have been upset with him, and nothing would have been good. As it stands, because I allowed him, he just found out about the game when he was already making plans. So he was very upset. But what I failed to realize was that it was good for me to give him a day to think through it on his own and feel his feelings and work through them and figure out how he was going to respond to the situation. And so without having to have any kind of argument or disagreement or long drawn out discussion, he came to the right decision on his own without hardly any influence from me. And so I really thought that was a huge learning opportunity for me as a parent, that I did not have to force that situation. I simply and gently in the very beginning said, I know what you want to do, and I also know that you know what's the right thing to do.
Erin, what I love about that story is that it gave your son an opportunity to make the decision on his own. And as kids, we're very smart. Kids are very smart. They know what's right and what's wrong. And sometimes when people tell us what's right and what's wrong, we don't care. Like, we will resist it and do the opposite. So that scenario would have ended so differently if you hadn't had given him the choice or the decision to make, and giving him those 2 to 3 days or whatever that looked like for him to just sit with it. I love that he said he didn't even text his friend, because he already knew what he wanted to do. Like, even if his friend was going out with their group of friends, he knew, okay, you know what, I should still go to my game. So for him, it didn't even really matter what his friend was going to do. He already made the decision in his head, I'm going to go to the game. So what's awesome about that is, as kids, we know that our parents don't really think that we can make decisions on our own. We know that parents think that they know what's right, and we have to do what they say. So it's kind of cool, a scenario to say, you know what, I don't know what you should do, but you know what you should do, kind of thing. So it's kind of
or
cool.
You'll figure it out.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool for a kid to sit there, because I know that my dad's done that and my mom's done that, where they'll say, I don't know, but how about this? And they give me some stuff to think about, and it comes to play in making my decision, but they don't exactly tell me. So it's kind of cool, because I like knowing that I'm the only one that knows the right decision for myself, and I think we let other adults make their own decisions, but we don't let our kids, I don't have kids, but parents don't let their kids make their own decisions, because they have so many years of proof or years of reasons why this will or won't work, that they don't let us figure it out for ourselves. And like I said, I think your son probably got a lot more out of this the last week than you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I learned so much to move forward the next time something like that comes up.
Yeah, and what I love most, is it my turn now to tell what I love most?
Yeah, go ahead.
What I love most about the story was, you said some very powerful things. One of them was, you said, it came out of your mouth, it said, I let it dangle. And when you said I let it dangle, it means you let him, you asked him a very powerful question, and you let him sit in it for a day or two. Mm-hmm. Where most unconscious parents, or parents that when we are unconscious and we're letting that fear run us, we don't want to give that time to try to either let them trust that they're going to figure it out, or we don't let it dangle. We want to address it right there and right then, and we want to help them come to that conclusion, because the fear has us, wrapped around to a point where we don't want to let them try to decide for themselves. So for me, when you said I let it dangle was very powerful. What it also said to me was that let it dangle part was a symbol of that's a safe, non-judgmental space for him to decide for himself. That's what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I noticed when you were sharing was you asked him 3 powerful questions, and then you gave him 2 neutral statements. And the 3 powerful questions were just questions that you asked him for him to think and ponder upon for himself. And the 2 neutral statements were there was no judgment in them. And one of them happened to be a statement that you are actually reminding him of what either he's been taught or what you've been how you've been raising him. It was a statement that was kind of pertaining towards, like, in other words, it was like, well, you know what the right thing to do is. I trust that you'll figure it out, so to speak. And so that was very that was a great story. So thank you for sharing that with us.
Sure.
And you know what? As you were telling the part where you were thinking, you're kind of freaking out to yourself, thinking, oh, what do I tell his coach? I already committed that we would be there, all that stuff. It kind of reminded me of when I was in high school, my mom used to, if I wanted to either take like a personal day or just play hooky from school, my mom would have to call the office and tell them that I was sick. And at my high school, we had a notoriously mean or judgmental office administrator who would give the parents a hard time because they knew that their kids were not sick. So it was actually really funny because my mom, when I would ask her, Mom, I really don't feel like going to school today. I really just need a mental health day. Can you call me in sick? My mom would sit there on the phone and just go quiet. And she'd be like, every time I call, and she would give me this, and it was so sad because she didn't want to be scolded or lectured by the office administrator. But for me, I didn't really care. I was, for me, I was, Mom, can you do this for me? Just say yes or no. I don't care about what you have to go through to do it. And that was so selfish of me because I would ask her, all the time, in that 4 years, I probably asked her, 10 times, can you call and get me out of this? And it makes me feel bad that I knew my mom didn't want to do it, and she didn't enjoy doing it, and she didn't want to be lectured about how bad of a parent she was or whatever that stuff came up for her when she did it. And she still did it for me, and I never really thanked her or said, hey, you don't realize that those couple of breaks that I took throughout.
You can thank her now. She's probably listening.
Oh, I'm getting to it.
Okay.
I never really, got to say thank you and say, those couple of days that I took those breaks, I really needed them. Like, high school teenage me really needed a break. And so now that my dad threw it out there, thank you, Mom. I wanted to say thank you that, we don't really appreciate, or I don't appreciate as a kid, all of the stuff that you do for me or have done for me because, we're selfish. So I'll admit it. And for all the parents who need their kids to say it, we are selfish. I'll say it for them. You don't need to hear them say it because you already know. So I think if you can keep trying and keep doing these things for us, like one day eventually we're going to look back and we're going to appreciate it. It may not be now, but we will eventually.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that so honestly. When I think about the controlling style parent, I think of my own parenting. When I was a kid, my mom and dad definitely, parented me from a lot of fear. And then there's a part of me that I wonder, and I'm sure a lot of other parents are thinking to themselves, if I would have told my mom or asked my mom if it questioned her parenting being fear-based, she would have said to me, and she probably still will today say to me, I parent you from the deepest part of my heart. Like I parented you from love. And I know that when we're unconscious and we're being controlling, I know it's driven by love. Like, I love you so much that I don't want you to get hurt. So therefore, I'm gonna try to not have that happen, or I'm gonna try to save you. I want to save you from the pain. I want to save you from the heartbreak. I want to save you from going through all that. So therefore, I'm going to try to control your choices for you, rather than trusting that in the process of going through the pain or going through the heartbreak, that you will learn your own lesson, that you will learn whatever it is that you need to learn so that you can navigate your journey of life in a powerful way. And then I think that, when it comes to the controlling style parent, you really have to practice asking open-ended questions to help them self reflect and then find their own answers and then share their own answers. Aaron, when you were sharing that story about your son, what I started, kind of visualizing was you're setting him up already to kind of, be a self-directed leader, to think for himself. You're creating that safe space for him to challenge his own faults or to challenge his own limitations just by giving him that space. And what an amazing gift you're giving him.
Thank you, Alex. I have to say that he wouldn't have had it any other way. He's extremely independent, and I'm so lucky that the firstborn of our children kind of paved the way for the rest of them, because he was never one to just willingly go along with whatever we said. He wasn't defiant, but he certainly had his own ideas from a very young age, and he demanded that we at least hear what his ideas were, if not allow him to exercise them.
Yeah, I'm curious, Jazz, to get your insight on when you hear the controlling style parent or the controlling parent. What are the top things come to your mind when you hear about a controlling parent? What are some examples? So if I'm a listener right now going, what do they mean? What are they talking about by a controlling style parent? What examples would you give?
Well, we just kind of talked about it, but definitely number one is making decisions for us. I think after, I don't know, maybe age 8, I'm not really sure because I'm not a parent, but there's a point where your kid needs to start making decisions for themselves so that we feel like we're smart, or we feel like we have a little bit of control over our life. And, if I'm 15 years old and my mom's still making decisions on what I wear, who I talk to, the words I use, if they're still making those decisions for me, then there's a point where I will never learn how to make decisions for myself.
And let me see if I can kind of put this in a framework. You're not suggesting that as a parent, you all of a sudden, when your son or daughter's 9 years old, that you let them make all the choices for themselves. I'm sure you're talking about just certain ones. Certain decisions should qualify for them to at least start practicing how to choose for themselves.
Right, little things.
Because you have parents that'll go, I'm not going to turn over all the choices for themselves, because there's certain things that their little brain doesn't know how to rationalize or think ahead, or doesn't have the wisdom to make some of those choices. But you're saying kind of create a little bit of time as they get 7 or 8 or 9, or even as little as 5 or 6 years old, and they want to make their own peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Start pre-qualifying some choices that they can make for themselves.
Yes, and I know it sounds like easy, maybe like, certain things sound easy, like letting them make their own peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but you don't realize that maybe there's scenarios where you're in a rush to get out the door and they want to make that peanut butter and jelly sandwich and you only have 2 minutes, and that's a 10-minute process. Or you need to hurry up and get them dressed for church, but mass already started, so you can't let them pick out their own outfit. So there's a lot of things, which I remember as a kid, I would want to dress myself. That's why I brought that one up. I would want to dress myself, and we would be in such a hurry that my mom would just throw whatever on me, and I would walk around, at 6 years old, like, I can't believe I'm wearing this dress. Like,
having resentment towards her, right?
Yeah, so it's funny that those little things, like, I still remember that. So to this day, if I'm wearing something and my mom goes, "You're wearing that?" I go, "Mom, don't even start," because now my whole day is just, but it's because of those scenarios. It's because I wanted to dress myself as a kid, and sometimes I didn't, have that opportunity. So if that's what it looks like, making the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, or letting them dress themselves, even if it looks bad, sometimes it's just letting us make the decisions that are the things that make us independent when we get older. Because like I said, if I'm 15 and my mom's still picking out my outfits for me when I'm going to high school, at what point when I'm 25, who says that I know how to pick out an outfit? Because nobody ever taught me. Nobody ever gave me the confidence and said, no matter what you wear, it's okay.
Yeah. And I even think about some of the choices that as kids we make, like not wanting to go to soccer practice or not wanting to go to school. And if you're going to walk that line as a coaching style parent, you got to kind of throw out those questions like, are you sure that's a choice you want to make? Because there are some consequences that you might have to pay. So let's talk about them. Or, if you make that choice, then I'm expecting you to call your coach. Or maybe your mom would have said, if that's the choice you're going to make, you're 16 years old, you get to call the school administrator, right? Like let them, we can't bail them out either. If we're going to open up that space for them to make some choices, they also have to be willing to pay the consequence too. So we got to create that space too.
I know we have to go on a break, but I just want to say I really, really like that, because there's two scenarios where you can excuse yourself. You can either have your parent call in, or your parent can write a note and you have to drop it off to the administrator. If my mom made me do that, I would have never missed. I would have been like, you know what? It's not worth it. I don't want to deal with her. I like that. Even though 15, 16-year-old me would not, but me now can say I would have had to taken a lot more responsibility for that. So Aaron, hang on just a little bit longer. We have to take a break, and we'll be right back. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Welcome back. You're listening to My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we are talking about parenting styles. So we kind of went over different distinctions of controlling and coaching style parenting with our guest, Aaron Taylor. And you know what? If you missed any of it, if you want to hear it again, go back, at least listen to Erin's story that she told about her and her son, so you can get a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about as far as the coaching style parenting of asking questions instead of making decisions for your kids. I
think stories are going to help you kind of understand and go, oh, I can identify with that, or oh, that makes sense. I do that too.
And even hearing how the kids reacted to them, that's a real big plus too, because a parent could be sitting there, oh, my kid would never act that way. Well, try it, and then give us a call. Call us here, 298-KHTS, and let us know what happened.
So I want to know, what are you learning as a future parent, as becoming a conscious young adult in that practice? What are you discovering?
Well, the biggest thing that I'm realizing is that it's really easy to fall back into the unconscious ways. I do it all the time. So I can't even imagine as a parent just doing things off the top of my head and not really thinking about them. So I really liked the peanut butter and jelly sandwich example, because I can see myself as a parent and my kid saying, oh, let me make the sandwich, and me being a rush saying, no, let me do it. You could do it next time. And not realizing that something like that could be a really big deal to them. And it kind of makes me sad, because when she was telling that story, I imagined myself as a mom doing that. And I know it's not really a big deal, but to them it's a really big deal.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad that you guys shared that example, because it really it touched me as a future parent. And
it was a little bit of a gut check. Would you not say?
Oh yeah, because I do it all the time.
But see this, when I get a gut check like that, that's when I get disturbed like that, either a story or I reflect back on something that I did that was heartbreaking, or I can't believe I did this to my son or my daughter, or I hurt their feelings. When I have that gut check and that disturbing feeling, that's when I actually have the awakening. So I'm glad that you're having that experience right now, because it's helping you get to another level, so that you're a little bit more aware, a little bit more conscious of it, so that you become and you keep redesigning and being that patient parent that your son needs or your daughter needs, such that being late to something, that you're willing to sacrifice being late to hang out and let him have another 20 minutes of making his own sandwich and walking him through that process, because that lesson will be a lifelong learned lesson for him, rather than just trying to getting him on time to one event. So as we wrap up, I want to turn this back over to you, Aaron, and tell us a little bit about your book, The Connection and Kindness. It's a parenting book.
Yes, I am a huge fan and follower, friend, and not a mentor of Dr. Shefali. She's my mentor. She is the author of The Conscious Parent, and in my opinion, the parenting expert. If you're going to listen to anybody, she's the one to follow. And I read her book, and it completely transformed my life and my parenting, but it was very hard to take her theories and put them into practice in everyday life. And so I wrote about my trials and tribulations trying to figure this whole conscious parenting thing out over the span of about a year. And I decided to turn it into a book, because I thought most parents aren't going to take a year of trial and error to figure something out that's really powerful. So I have to find a way to help them kind of bring it down to earth and really put these ideas into place in their home quickly. And so that's really where my book came from, and why I wrote it. And it's really all about making those deep, loving connections with your child, and really changing the course of the future, changing the course of your relationship with them, and then the ripple effect of the relationships they have with everyone they come in contact with in their lives.
I love it, and I suggest that you go buy it. You can get it at Amazon.com, and I think the Kindle version right now is only $7.99, which is ridiculous. It's a must-have. You should have that in your library. Thank you, Erin, so much for taking the time. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, and you're welcome back anytime.
Thank you for having me, both of you, Alex and Jazmine. I always enjoy talking with you.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Erin. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us today on My Conscious Dad. We're here every Friday from 12 to 1 p.m. right here on your hometown station, KHTS.